All right, hello everyone. My name is Michael Sweeney and I'm head of marketing here at Clearcode. In today's video, I'm joined by Juan Baron, who is the Director of Business Development and Strategy of Media and Advertising at Decentriq, and we'll be talking about data clean rooms. So, Juan, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Michael. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, before we jump to the questions, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and Decentriq and what you guys do.
Sure. So, as my name stated, I'm born and raised in Colombia. Spent many years in AdTech in the US. Migrated over to Switzerland about 8 years ago. So I've been on the AdTech side and also on the publisher side. And for the past since the rise of GDPR, the move towards privacy first type of advertising has taken hold, and data clean rooms aim to kind of fill that gap. What Decentriq does, Decentriq is a Swiss-based data clean room provider, and we have our secret sauce is a hardware-based technology called confidential computing, which we can go into further details. But basically, what we do is we provide data clean rooms for a variety of industries. So that's what we do.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, actually, we may as well jump into that next part there about the industries that you guys work with, because especially in the programmatic advertising world, data clean rooms is a very hot topic at the moment. And there's a lot of talk about the different use cases and the things you can do with data clean rooms in programmatic advertising and digital marketing. But what are some of the other industries that you guys operate in, and the types of clients that use your data clean room for, let's say, advertising and media use cases?
So at the core, if you think about Decentriq, at the core, Decentriq is a data science collaboration platform. That is really the nuts and bolts of the technology. A lot of the use cases that we've seen is actually pure data scientists using our technology to collaborate with other fellow data scientists at another company. So that has actually given the rise of different types of industries using Decentriq data clean rooms. For example, we have which is public. We have a company in Asia using in the trade finance sector, using data clean rooms, our data clean rooms, in order to collaborate with logistics data. So where they're trying to track and monitor cargo shipping data. We have pharmaceutical companies. So this is also very public. We work with many numbers of pharmaceutical companies collaborating on market share data inside of the data clean room. We also, obviously, we work in the media and advertising sector, where we enable banks, insurance companies activate their data inside of the premium publisher inventory. Or even to be more complex, we have publishers collaborating with insurance companies on what is called attribute prediction modeling. So they're running machine learning models in order to better predict data without ever leaking individual profile information. So the only thing that comes out of the data clean room is the model itself. So it's likely the most privacy preserving type of collaboration that we've seen. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I would like to highlight too, we even work with the public sector here in Switzerland. So we have the Swiss Army working on protecting core infrastructure, like banking or and the likes, for cyber attacks. So there's a lot of sensitive data being used on the platform.
Awesome. Very nice. So obviously, as I mentioned with your title, you're responsible for the advertising and media side. So we'll certainly talk more a little bit about the use cases of data clean rooms for those areas. But I'm quite intrigued by the use of data clean rooms by the companies and the industries you just mentioned. Government, transport, logistics, pharmaceuticals. So I think for most people, when they think of data clean rooms and the applications for programmatic advertising and media, one of the key parts, I guess, of the whole process is being able to match two different data sets together, right? You've got an advertiser and a publisher, let's say, and they might want to run, the advertiser might want to do some kind of ad targeting across the publisher's website or properties. And in order to do that, they would use a data clean room to essentially match the two different data sets together, right? And I guess for the most part, there would be some kind of linking ID that joins it all together, right? Whether it's a universal ID, mobile ID, phone number, email address, or something like that, right? So how does that look when we're talking about non-programmatic advertising and marketing use cases? As you mentioned, logistics, government, pharmaceutical. What do they essentially kind of do the same? Do they do both parties have some piece of data that can be connected together? Is it like an email address or is it something else? Is there a linking piece or pieces of data between those two different data sets in different industries? And what can they do once they've done that?
Not necessarily. So, give you an example. Specifically in our data clean rooms, we have very strict user permissions, and who gets to access what depends on who gets to upload the data. Maybe on the other side, the collaboration party, maybe it's like the data scientist that needs to be able to compute the data. So it does not require to have a link in between the data sets. It could be just unstructured data sets. And that allows the data scientist to pull different data sources and run specific models in order to achieve a certain result. That is very different than what we know in our world of AdTech and programmatic advertising, which is like, I want to follow this Juan available in this other publishing media properties. That's a very different approach.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So yeah, it's quite interesting to highlight the different uses of a data clean room, because I think, especially for myself, when I hear of data clean rooms, I automatically think of things like, ad targeting, measurement, attribution, activation. But as you said, it's can be used. I guess it can be used, as you said, with those different industries, with data scientists to do things with data in a highly secure and privacy friendly way. Right? I guess that's the whole value of the data clean room for those particular industries.
Absolutely, and it really depends on the capabilities of the data clean room provider as well. So in Decentriq, because we use confidential compute, which is a specially designed hardware by Intel and AMD, we allow pretty much any type of programming language inside of the data clean room. So we support not only SQL, but we support also R or Python. So that is like exactly what data scientists use today, but they can just do it in a very safe, compliant way with sensitive data through our platform. And we have not only the access permissions by user, but we also have interactive data workflows built inside of the platform. So it allows for a very collaborative, speedy iteration of data scientists to kind of work back and forth in a very fluid manner compared to just like the traditional, what we've seen also some of the other competitors in the space. People tend to gravitate when it comes to advertising. I'm just like, I just want to find my X number of users and retarget them in a safe and compliant way through a data clean room. That's not for us, that's not the most exciting use case. The most exciting use cases are the more complicated ones that really involve data science when it comes to in advertising precisely.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And I guess with that topic there, the whole data science using data scientists using a data clean room, I guess as you kind of alluded to before, a lot of that kind of programming type stuff would be done inside the Decentriq data clean room, right? Because I guess it wouldn't, I guess one of the whole points of a data clean room is that other data apart from your own that you put in is not extracted from it. So I guess a lot of that kind of analysis happens within your platform. Is that right?
That's correct, and then you can allow the other collaborating party to get access to specific results. So we have what is called anonymity filter. So it's like privacy filter in a way where we can actually hardwire the end results to be aggregated results. So that is kind of hardwired into the platform. And you can get to, in the whole idea as well is that you can have full transparency in what kind of code is being written. So therefore, there's no data leakage. On top of that, because of confidential compute, there's this thing called remote attestation. And what that provides is cryptographic proof of what is actually being done in the data. So the sexier term for this remote attestation, we call this the audit log inside of our platform. And this is cryptographic proof that whenever somebody clicks to view the results, run the computation, we have a very transparent log between all the parties of what is actually being done, what users do and what inside of the platform. And that from a DPO perspective is an incredible feature because it provides a lot of it makes them sleep better at night. Let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Cool. So let's maybe jump into some of the main use cases for advertising and media that that your clients are using the Decentriq data clean room for. So what are some of the sort of clients? What are they doing with your data clean room in the advertising and digital marketing space?
So in the digital and advertising space, there's the most common use case is media planning, and then obviously activation. And activation takes place in very different flavors, and eventually measurement, right? So when it comes to media planning, it all starts with an overlap. Let's define, I have my customer data set, and I'm going to kind of plug this in or intersect it with the publisher's network, and I want to see what the overlap looks like. You can bring in your own data identity graph if you want to, and kind of expand the match rate, as they say. And then through the activation, there's kind of a few different flavors, right? We have the precise activation. That one actually requires explicit marketing consent from the brand as well, but that is actually the traditional retargeting that everybody knows and loves. The other one is actually what we built already baked in inside of the platform, which is top affinity segments. The idea here is that we identify, based on the intersect of the data, we identify the most highly top affinity segments of that particular publisher. And then we actually create audiences around or deal IDs around those particular segments. And the more sophisticated one is allowing the publisher to bring their own lookalike model inside of the data clean room. And what that allows is actually to create one big segment built on a lookalike on that data intersect. And then the only thing that actually exits the data clean room is the model itself. And what we've been able to prove in combination, because we use confidential computing and all the privacy and security guarantees that we provide, that we, Decentriq, don't have any physical or any way to access the data because the encryption keys are with the data owner, not with Decentriq. And also we also guarantee that not even the cloud provider has access to the data. So what we do is that we actually back this up with legal opinions. So we have legal memorandums from prominent European legal firms backing our claims that, yes, you don't need marketing consent at all from the brand side in order to enable the top affinity and the lookalike model through Decentriq. But on top of that, which is pretty groundbreaking, because of the way the technology is built, we have major European publishers acknowledging that they don't even require joint control or agreement with the brand. So that is a game changer because of the way we built Decentriq. And then measurement. At the end of the day, it's all about showing results. And for the longest time, for many, many years, publishers are limited in terms of how much data they're able to provide and show results to customers. And measurement is key. So for the first time, they're able to provide ad exposure data plus a lot of audience data into the measurement and provide very incredible predictive analytics on behalf of the brands. So finally, premium publishers have, in a way, are kind of taking control back and showing a lot more value than the traditional, just normal programmatic advertising.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. So, in just staying on this topic of data clean rooms in programmatic advertising. So, what are some of the channels that your clients are using your data clean room in? I mean, can you guys essentially offer the data clean room in different channels, like your typical web browser advertising, in-app, CTV, or are you guys kind of focusing on one channel at a time, or can your data clean room be used across different channels by different advertisers?
The data clean room in itself is agnostic to the channel. It really depends on the publishing partner. So in Switzerland, we have publishers that not only sell standard programmatic display advertising or native or even in-feed video, but we also have partners that also sell CTV. So it really is agnostic. It really depends on the capabilities and the reach that the particular publisher has. What kind of inventory they control, and then make their DMP data or CDP data available in the clean room in order so that the advertiser can actually choose which particular channels and audiences will be the most relevant based on the data intersect.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And in terms of the thing that ties it all together, right? Because I guess I guess in most cases, or maybe every case when it comes to programmatic advertising and digital marketing, is if you have an advertiser and they want to match their data sets with a publisher's data sets, there needs to be an underlying linking, ID, let's say. So is that generally the case, like, 100% of the time that there needs to be some kind of underlying ID linking
Yes.
those two different data sets together?
Yes. The most prominent linking is typically the email address. But we can do a combination of multiple things, right? In our clean room, because you can write any type of code, you can ingest an identity graph. You can ingest multiple identity graphs if you really need to. You can do a combination of what we call fuzzy matching. So if you happen to have the email, phone number, first name and last name, including even a home address in your data set, you can use a combination of everything in order to further increase the match rate.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I just wanted to backtrack a little bit and get back to this question this thing you mentioned a moment ago about consent when it comes to collecting data and then using it in the data clean room. So if I understand it correctly, if I'm a publisher and I have some kind of login, let's say, where I collect email addresses, and then I would encrypt those email addresses and then upload them to Decentriq, for example, to the data clean room. So is it the case that when I collect that email address, I don't have to ask for consent in order to collect it, because I'll be using it in a data clean room where that personal data won't be shared with anybody else? Am I understanding that right?
Well, the data clean room itself does not solve the problem. That it's not the law around consent is not about the technology. It's about the processing of the data. Based on noting our legal team, but also the law itself, what we are allowing to do is leverage data for legitimate business interest. So let me give you an example. Let's say I am a bank. Let's pick a big bank. Let's say I'm Barclays and I want to advertise on The Guardian, right? So as Barclays, I have access to my own CRM. Perhaps I have surveys. Perhaps I have also, I don't know, Adobe Analytics. And I'm pulling all this data and I have a very basic understanding who my actual customers are. And maybe I've identified that maybe they're all male and 28, they're 25 to 45, and they're interested in sports. Very plain, simple, vanilla. And then I'll go to the Guardian and say, the typical workflow on programmatic advertising, it says, hey, Guardian, I want you to create an audience with males 25 to 45 that are interested in sports, because that is what I know about my own customers. With data clean rooms, in particular with Decentriq, in order, for example, to identify the activation case of top affinity, once you intersect those data sets, you now come up with a very different perspective of your own customers, because now not only are they male, but the age group is actually different. It's actually 28 to 35, and they're not interested in sports. It's more about adrenaline sports. Now, if you realize what has happened is that, yes, you leverage on both sides data from each other's customers, but at the end of the day, all you're getting is you're extracting business analytics. Therefore, based on the legal memorandums and the legal opinions that we have backing up this particular use case, no marketing consent or additional consent is required in order to extrapolate that information, because these are just business insights. But you're using those insights in order to further influence, to create a segment, and at no point in time you're transferring individual profile information from one entity to the other. Neither are you given access to your customer database to that particular publisher.
Yeah, got it. So essentially, you don't, like, for example, the publisher wouldn't, or even the advertiser for that matter, wouldn't need to, state Decentriq or any other data, or Decentriq in this case as a, vendor that they work with, right? Like if we imagine the typical CMP scenario where you go into a publisher's website and they've got a list of all the partners they work with, essentially that publisher wouldn't need to list Decentriq as one of these partners, because you're not passing on, you're not utilizing personal, you're not processing personal data, basically.
Yeah, that is correct. And that is a big changer for us because, like I said, the way Decentriq is built, we have no way of what was even knowing what's going on inside of the data clean room. In some cases, we have no way of what kind of code they're running, what kind of data they're actually uploading, who has access to what. It's kind of locked up in a hardware enclave, protected by confidential computing. And confidential computing, those hardware chips, those microprocessors are built in a way that they can only run the code that was agreed upon between the collaboration parties in the data clean room. So at the end of the day, it's the software, it's the code that rules, not any type of commercial agreement or whatever that is being agreed upon the collaborating parties.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I totally agree. I think it is a big game changer, especially on the privacy front. And I think, especially when we talk about the use of first party data, right? I kind of see that as being a massive advantage for data clean rooms, because if we think about some of the other ways that a brand or a publisher would need to activate their first party data, I mean, if they're talking about universal IDs, I'm not a legal expert on the whole GDPR and the whole thing about the lawful basis for data processing using a universal ID, but I would assume, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, that they would be essentially processing personalized personal data, right?
Yeah.
So you would need to then have that, the publisher or the brand would need to state that as part of the data processing, that these companies will be also processing their data, but that's not the case with data clearance. So I think that's a massive thing for first party data.
It depends on the data clean room. Like I said, it depends how the data clean room is built, what they require in terms of how the data work, the data architecture looks like. In the Decentriq world, the data is encrypted on device. So if you're using our user interface, you can use our user interface without even being connected to our infrastructure. In a way, you're pretty much using the app on the browser. The minute you hit encrypt and upload, all you're sending to Decentriq is a blob of encrypted data. And through confidential computing, these specially designed chips are designed in a way that they can actually compute data that is encrypted. So at no point in time in our infrastructure, Decentriq, not even the cloud provider, can access the data. Every single data clean room provider will always hit the DPO office, the data protection officer, and they will always ask questions. And that's what we tend to see as well. That's why we are being trusted by pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, even banks, obviously the cyber defense, and all these very highly sensitive data owners, is a testament in terms of the trust that they're putting on us because of the way the technology is built and the guarantees that we provide. And I hate to say, not all data clean rooms are capable of doing that because of the way the infrastructure is built.
Definitely. So yeah, maybe let's jump into this topic a little bit more about the different data clean rooms that are on the market. Let's say because there's been a lot of news over the past few months about a lot of independent, let's say, data clean room providers like yourselves, operating on the market. But then there's also a lot of activity around data clean room or data clean room tech provided by the walled gardens of Google,
Correct.
Meta, and Amazon, and of course, AWS also announced their data clean room solution. So maybe let's start with the comparison between Decentriq and other, let's say, independent, non-walled garden data clean rooms. So, and obviously, you've touched on this before about privacy and data, and I guess one of the key things, as you mentioned a second ago, about data clean rooms is because they are very much viewed as a highly privacy, let's say, friendly solution. Privacy and security needs to be at the heart of it. So, how, I guess maybe sort of two questions here. How does Decentriq differ from the other, let's say, independent data clean rooms on the market, and how do you provide the security and privacy aspects that generally, I guess most people would think need to come automatically with a data clean room?
So, a key differentiating part of Decentriq is now we're going into the privacy enhancing technology space, right? Which is not only do we have this PET environment is a completely new world, right? In particular for the advertising market. For Decentriq, as far as we know, based on the research that we've done and everything else, and partners that we talked to, we are the only data clean room in the space that uses a combination of trusted execution environment and confidential computing. So that combination of both hardware and software is by far the most secure. Now, that being said, what we know of other data clean room providers in the space, some of them are more like a CMO dashboard. So they're pulling in information from existing data sources, kind of creating collaboration between those data sources, but there's not really sophisticated data science going behind it, right? It's more about answering the chief marketer's office query of the day. And the other ones are built around data storage, right? And that one also has legal implications, and also they have limitations in terms of computational flexibility that they can run on the data clean room itself. So data clean rooms from Decentriq, think about it like a Snapchat. We are ephemeral data clean rooms. You agree on the computation, you can run any code, SQL, Python, R. You can even create synthetic data sets inside of the data clean room for further protection of your data. And once you agree on the code, you upload the data into the data clean room, you compute it, and then you pretty much are done with it. These are ephemeral data clean rooms. So we're not in the storage business, but that also we're in the computational flexibility business. And the way we also try to also describe Decentriq is that we're a trusted computational layer. So you can send data into processing or computation inside of Decentriq, and what you do with the data afterwards, you can also send it to internal analytic dashboards if you have them.
Perfect. And so do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was actually going to continue because the walled gardens are starting to come in, right?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
about the walled gardens.
Obviously, the walled gardens have their own business interests, right? It's to spend more money inside of the walled gardens, and that is the approach that they're going to take. They want to show that their inventory produces more results, with very little flexibility, and they're not going to provide any data from their own users because they're the walled gardens for a reason. AWS is the same thing, right? It's a marketing. It's trying to help you spend more inside of Amazon advertising, and it comes with these limitations as well because they're not independent or data input agnostic. So they kind of require for you to be in Amazon, or perhaps you have to be in Snowflake, from Snowflake to Snowflake customers. And then what do? You're kind of limited in terms of the exposure or the possibilities that you can do with that. We do see a future where large brands will want to have a very independent, highly flexible, extremely secure data science, data clean room. And large brands will demand from the walled gardens to provide data sets in that particular because at the end of the day, the walled gardens also need to protect the data of their own users, so they need the most secure data clean rooms as well. So we do see a world where very large brands will start demanding data from the walled gardens into their own independent data clean room in order to provide better measurement.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that will happen in the future? Because I know that with Google's what's it called, this
Pair.
Yeah, that's right. The ads data hub or something, I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, this, from what I've read, the data you can't really extract. You can't really sort of use that with other companies, right?
But
It's
again,
basically across their own products.
It's a very Google-centric view. It's like,
yes,
give me your data, I'll ingest it, I'll pretend that everything's secure. Well, not pretend, I'm sure it is secure in a way, in the Google way, but it's all about showing you how your data looks like in the Google universe. But at no point in time, if you're a large, sophisticated advertiser, your entire advertising does not just live on Google. It lives on Meta, it lives on Snapchat, it lives on programmatic advertising. Maybe you have direct deals with the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Guardian. If you're a very big brand, you want to have full control and full visibility of where your marketing spend is being run and how to properly allocate budgets as the world changes. But with the Ads Hub from Google, it's a very Google-centric view.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think that there will be a point in time when Google will make their data clean room tech open to other parties, or do you think it will be a situation where, let's say, a large brand that runs campaigns with Google and other independent ad tech companies and Meta, Amazon even, they'll essentially just have a bunch of these different data clean rooms that they will use? Or do you think there'll come a point in time where they'll all kind of be working together in some way? Or would it kind of be just like we've seen with pretty much every other area of programmatic advertising, where there's the walled gardens and then there's the independent ad tech companies? Do you think that trend's going to follow into the data clean room space, or do you think it might be a little bit different?
I mean, I sure hope so. I think at the end of the day, it's all about trust. Even if Google opens up their own data clean room, do you think Meta will ever upload their user data or ad exposure data into the Google data clean room? I don't think so. That's exactly why we believe that independent data clean rooms are here to stay, because it enables trust and control. And that is the key factors that they're definitely going to drive the adoption of data clean rooms. We're talking about sensitive data. We're not talking about third-party cookies, right? A brand, let's say a bank or even an e-commerce platform, they have highly sensitive data. They understand these are personal identifiable information, lifetime value components, what kind of purchase history the particular customer has, if it's a bank, mortgage information, credit card information, or transactional history. Very sensitive data. And at the end of the day, the data provider needs to be fully in control. And eventually if they're a very large advertiser, not only do they want to put in the data clean room the transactional data and the CRM data, but they also expect the walled gardens and the programmatics of the world or the publishers of the world to be able to contribute. And they also want to be in control of their own data that they're putting inside of the data clean room. So that's what we believe, that independent data clean rooms are here to stay. And we believe that the Decentriq obviously has a very strong future because of the computational flexibility, but also by far the privacy and security guarantees that we provide.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. I think there absolutely will be a need for independent data clean rooms because it's purely and simply because of the different applications of a data clean room. I mean, as you mentioned a moment ago, that some of the companies that use these, they use Decentriq, for example, dealing with highly sensitive information, that they're not going to give that to Google or Meta,
No, never.
especially because I guess the main use case of Google's data clean room is advertising,
Absolutely.
right? But that's not always going to be the case.
If you're Kroger or Walmart, will you ever use AWS?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. So there's always a market for the independent AdTech companies and data clean room companies, which is fantastic to see. Excellent. So I wanted to just ask also a couple of questions about the IAB's recent standards and guidelines that were released in February of this year, 2023. And there's a part there, and this is obviously what we've just kind of been talking about interoperability. So I guess at the moment, I mean, like, how does it work with Decentriq? Maybe kind of starting from a basic level. Let's say you've got one advertiser and a publisher. If an advertiser wants to use a data clean room for for campaign media planning, can they really only sort of use that with one publisher partner, or I guess it, if they wanted to work with multiple publishers, it would just be a matter of bringing those publishers on, right? Is that essentially how it would work?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works today. We have cases where we have a network of publishers collaborating with one brand, for example.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And so in terms of the interoperability between the different data clean rooms, because I know that this was kind of part of or was mentioned in the IAB's standards and guidelines. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the future of the data clean room space for especially for independent data clean room vendors in terms of interoperability between them? So obviously, if we imagine we've got advertiser one is using Decentriq, let's say, and then you've got a publisher that's using a different data clean room. How do you kind of see that situation and that kind of future? Do you see that being a common thing, or do you kind of see how it is now, where there'll be one data clean room and it'll be used by advertisers and publishers, and there won't be any kind of interoperability between the different data clean room vendors?
So the topic of interoperability is a key one. Obviously, Decentriq is among the co-authors of that particular paper. And what we set out to do with that paper is just to create a baseline in terms of the future of interoperability. Interesting enough, it's all about not only agreeing on the terms of actually privacy and security joins, and we take a very hard stance in terms of establishing a standard of what is really a private and secure data clean room. But also the subject of interoperability is data normalization between clean rooms, right? You want to make sure that you're like in the Decentriq world, we're agnostic to the input and the output of the data. But if we're going to ingest that data from a competing data clean room because our brand or our publisher is using our data clean room, we need to make sure that that data can actually be run and computed and intersected with whatever's going on inside of the Decentriq data clean room. What's interesting enough is actually one of our largest partners here in Europe. Their perspective on interoperability is not just the data, it's actually the legal framework, right? It's all about making sure that how do we scale the usage of data clean rooms without being bogged down on compliance. So for them, can we somehow digitally, in a way, scale or programmatically scale the legal frameworks around it? And I think hopefully my hope is that we can actually take up this topic and actually bring this into the subject of interoperability, because it's a very interesting approach. Because as you know, programmatic advertising is all about scale. without worrying. It needs to be ease of use, click a button, and then scale. Hopefully we can actually do that through data clean rooms as well in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned a moment ago, I think one of the, there's a lot of challenges, I guess, with the interoperability part, especially with data clean rooms, right? Because, by nature, especially, as you mentioned with Decentriq, you guys are it's highly secure in, in privacy as well. So there's a lot of challenges, not only with the technical side, as you said, with data normalization, but it's also the fact that, you're not like a data warehouse, right, where you can kind of do all that like a normal data warehouse would be. There's a lot of separation, I guess, with the different data sets, and you don't get the raw data even. So it's even challenging from that part of it as well. So it will be interesting to see how the interoperability part works out, and even whether that's something that brands and publishers even want as well, because I think that there's a lot of, as we've just mentioned, a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles you have to overcome. And I think for a lot of brands and publishers, they might just be happy with how the data clean room process works now, where they use one like data clean room, Decentriq, let's say, and just work with a bunch of their publishing partners, rather than work with a bunch of different data clean rooms as well, because that could add a lot more complexity to their processes as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. So, Juan, that's pretty much all the questions I had for today. Was there anything else you wanted to add? Was there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to talk about?
No, I mean, this was a very good conversation. So thank you very much for giving me the time.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's always good to learn about data clean rooms. I feel that every second day I'm reading some kind of article about data clean rooms, and we're always trying to make sense of it in my head, and chatting to people like yourself certainly makes that process a lot easier. So it's really great that you took the time to tell us about Decentriq and how your data clean room works as well, and get your thoughts on some of the other topics in the industry. So yeah, I think for today we can wrap it up. If people want to get in contact with you, they can obviously just head over to Decentriq. I'll put a link to to your website in the description below. I'll also put a link to your LinkedIn profile as well. If people want to connect with you there, if they've got any questions, that's probably the best place to get in contact with you as well. So Juan, thank you very much for your time today, and all the best with Decentriq and your perfect, excellent. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.